Imagine this. You've worked for 40 years, saved diligently, done everything right. Then you retire, and within 15 years, your money runs out. You're 80 years old, with decades potentially ahead of you, and you're broke. Dependent on others, unable to afford the life you dreamed of, watching every penny with anxiety you thought you'd left behind. This nightmare scenario happens to millions of retirees, not because they didn't save enough, but because they didn't have a plan for how to spend what they saved. Here's a shocking truth. Most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do planning a 30-year retirement. They obsess over saving, but never learn the most critical skill: how to make their money last when they're no longer earning. What if I told you there's a scientifically backed formula that tells you exactly how much you can safely spend each year in retirement without running out of money? A formula that's been tested against every market crash, recession, and economic disaster of the past century and still works? Today, we're breaking down A Richer Retirement by William P. Bengen, the financial advisor who revolutionized retirement planning by creating the famous 4% rule. This isn't generic advice or guesswork. This is mathematical precision applied to the most important financial question you'll ever face. How do I make my money last as long as I do? By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to spend more, stress less, and enjoy the retirement you've earned without the fear of running out. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Retirement Crisis Nobody Talks About. The book opens with a reality check. Retirement is longer and more expensive than ever before, and most people are drastically unprepared. In 1950, the average retirement lasted about 10 years. Today, if you retire at 65, you could easily live another 30 or even 40 years. That's not a retirement. That's an entire second adult life that needs funding. But here's the problem nobody wants to address. Traditional retirement advice is broken. For decades, financial advisors told people to save $1 million and live off the interest. The assumption was that interest rates would be high enough to provide income without touching the principal. But in today's low-interest environment, that strategy is dead. If you have $1 million earning 2% interest, that's $20,000 per year before taxes. Can you live on that? Most people can't. So you're forced to dip into your principal, which brings up the terrifying question: how much can I safely withdraw without running out of money before I die? This is called the retirement spending puzzle, and it's kept financial advisors and retirees up at night for generations. Withdraw too little, and you'll die with a pile of money you could have used to enjoy life. Withdraw too much, and you'll run out of money while you're still alive and face poverty in your final years. Bengen explains that most retirees handle this by being overly conservative. They're so terrified of running out that they barely touch their savings. They live below their means, deny themselves experiences and comforts they can actually afford, and die with hundreds of thousands of dollars they never used. Their heirs are thrilled, but the retirees themselves sacrificed quality of life unnecessarily. Others go the opposite direction. They spend freely, assuming things will work out, and then face financial crisis in their 70s or 80s when the money runs dry. Neither extreme is optimal. The book reveals a third option, a scientifically calculated withdrawal strategy that maximizes your spending while minimizing the risk of running out. This isn't about guessing or hoping. This is about math, historical data, and proven principles. Bengen conducted groundbreaking research analyzing every possible retirement scenario over the past century. Through the Great Depression, World War II, oil crises, dot-com bubbles, and financial crashes, he asked one simple question: what's the maximum amount someone could have safely withdrawn from their portfolio in any historical retirement period and still had money left after 30 years? The answer changed retirement planning forever. Chapter 2, The 4% Rule, the Foundation of Retirement Spending. Here it is, the discovery that made William Bernstein famous in financial circles. If you withdraw 4% of your retirement savings in your first year of retirement, then adjust that dollar amount for inflation each subsequent year, your money has historically lasted at least 30 years in every single market scenario tested. Let's make this concrete. Say you retire with $1 million. In year 1, you withdraw $40,000 for more percent of $1 million. In year 2, if inflation was 3%, you withdraw $40,000 plus 3%. In year 3, you adjust again for inflation. You're not recalculating 4% of your current balance. You're adjusting your original withdrawal amount to maintain purchasing power. This simple rule has survived every market condition imaginable. The worst-case scenarios in Bengen's research were retirements that started right before major market crashes, 1929, 1966, 2000. Even in those terrible timing situations, the 4% rule worked. The portfolio lasted 30-plus years. Why does this work? Because it's based on realistic assumptions about how retirement portfolios behave. Bengen assumed a typical portfolio of 50-60% stocks and 40-50% bonds. Over long periods, this balanced approach provides growth from stocks, while bonds provide stability and income. The book explains the mathematics behind the rule. Stocks historically return about 10% annually on average, bonds about 5%. Even accounting for inflation, bad market years, and sequence of returns risk, a 4% withdrawal rate leaves enough cushion for the portfolio to sustain itself through both growth and withdrawals. But here's what makes Bengen's work revolutionary. It's not just theory. He didn't make assumptions about future markets. He tested the rule against actual historical data spanning multiple economic disasters. The 4% rule survived the Great Depression, stagflation of the 1970s, Black Monday in 1987, the dot-com crash, and the 2008 financial crisis. Now, some people criticize the 4% rule as too conservative. They argue that in most scenarios you could withdraw more and still be fine. That's true. In roughly 80% of historical scenarios, retirees following the 4% rule ended up with more money than they started with, even after 30 years of withdrawals. The 4% rule is designed for worst-case scenarios. But that's precisely the point. You don't know in advance whether you're retiring into a bull market or a bear market. You don't know if you'll face another Great Depression or a decade-long boom. The 4% rule protects you in any scenario, which is why it's called the safe withdrawal rate. The peace of mind this provides is invaluable. Instead of constantly worrying whether you're spending too much, you have a clear guideline based on decades of data and research. Chapter 3. Supercharging the 4% rule, how to spend more safely. While the 4% rule is powerful, Bengen didn't stop there. The book reveals multiple strategies to supercharge the rule, allowing you to spend more while maintaining safety. This is the richer part of a richer retirement. First strategy, optimize your asset allocation. Bengen's research found that the 4% rule actually works better with a slightly higher stock allocation than most retirees use. The sweet spot is around 50 to 75% stocks, 25-50% bonds. Many retirees, fearing volatility, shift too heavily into bonds and actually reduce their safe withdrawal rate because their portfolio doesn't grow enough. This seems counterintuitive. More stocks means more volatility, more risk, right? But in long-term retirement scenarios, the bigger risk isn't short-term volatility. It's running out of money. Stocks provide the growth needed to sustain withdrawals over 30-plus years. Bonds alone, especially in low-interest environments, can't keep pace with inflation and withdrawals. The book is clear. You need stock market exposure in retirement. Not 100%, which would be reckless, but enough to ensure your portfolio grows over time. This challenges the old wisdom that you should get more conservative as you age. Second strategy, adjust withdrawals based on portfolio performance. The 4% rule assumes you mechanically adjust for inflation every year, regardless of market conditions. But Benjamin suggests a more flexible approach. In years when your portfolio performs well, you can increase your withdrawals slightly. In years when the market crashes, you can reduce spending temporarily to preserve capital. This flexibility can significantly increase your lifetime spending without increasing the risk of running out. For example, you might use a 4.25% withdrawal rate, adjusting based on market conditions. In good years, you spend more and enjoy life. In bad years, you tighten the belt temporarily. Over a full retirement, this approach often allows 20 to 30% more total spending than the rigid 4% rule. Third strategy, consider your time horizon. The 4% rule is designed for 30-year retirements. But what if you retire at 70 instead of 60? Your retirement might only be 20 years. In that case, you can safely withdraw more, perhaps 5%, or even 5.5%. The shorter your retirement horizon, the higher your safe withdrawal rate. Fourth strategy, incorporate guaranteed income sources, Social Security, pensions, annuities. These sources aren't subject to market risk. The more guaranteed income you have, the more aggressive you can be with your investment portfolio withdrawals. If Social Security covers your basic needs, your investment portfolio is just for lifestyle enhancement, which changes your risk calculus entirely. The book provides detailed tables and calculations for all these scenarios, but the core principle is simple. The 4% rule is your safe baseline, but with smart adjustments, you can spend considerably more and still maintain security. Chapter 4, the biggest retirement spending mistake. Now let's talk about the mistake that costs retirees the most, failing to account for sequence of returns risk. This is the hidden danger that can destroy even well-funded retirements, and most people have never heard of it. Here's the concept. Imagine two retirees, both starting with $1 million, both withdrawing $40,000 annually, both experiencing the exact same average returns over 30 years. But retiree A experiences good returns in the early years and poor returns later. Retiree B experiences poor returns early and good returns later. Logic suggests they'd end up in the same place, right? They had the same average returns. Wrong. Retiree B, who faced poor returns early, runs out of money decades sooner, even though the average returns were identical. Why? Because when you're withdrawing money from a portfolio, the order of returns matters enormously. Poor returns early in retirement are devastating because you're forced to sell more shares to fund withdrawals when prices are low. Those shares are gone and can't participate in future recovery. This creates a downward spiral that's extremely difficult to escape. Bengen explains this with brutal clarity. The first 5 years of retirement are the most critical. If the market crashes during those years, your retirement is in serious jeopardy, even if the market eventually recovers. This is why simply looking at average long-term returns is misleading for retirees. So, how do you protect against sequence of returns risk? The book provides several strategies. First, build a cash cushion. Keep 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or very safe, liquid investments. This way, if the market crashes early in retirement, you can live off your cash reserves instead of selling stocks at depressed prices. Give your portfolio time to recover before resuming withdrawals. Second, consider a bucket strategy. Divide your portfolio into 3 buckets. Short term, I want 3 years of expenses in cash bonds. Medium term, 10 years in balanced investments. And long term, 10+ years in stocks. You spend from the short-term bucket, periodically refilling it from the medium-term bucket, which gets refilled from the long-term bucket when markets are strong. This strategy ensures you're never forced to sell stocks at the worst possible time. You have flexibility to wait for recovery before converting growth assets to spending money. Third, stay flexible with spending. If you retire into a bear market, reduce your withdrawals temporarily. Work part-time for a few years. Delay major expenses. This flexibility during critical early years can make the difference between a successful retirement and financial disaster. The book emphasizes sequence of returns risk is the biggest threat to your retirement, bigger than inflation, bigger than healthcare costs, bigger than market volatility itself. Understanding and planning for this risk is essential. Chapter 5. Healthcare and Longevity. The Retirement Wildcards. Let's address 2 massive uncertainties that can derail even the best retirement plan: healthcare costs and how long you'll actually live. The 4% rule helps, but these factors require specific attention. First, healthcare. Bengen is blunt. Healthcare will likely be your biggest retirement expense, and it's getting worse. The average 65-year-old couple retiring today will need approximately $300,000 just for healthcare costs over their retirement. That doesn't include long-term care, which could add another $200,000, $400,000 if needed. Most people dramatically underestimate this. They assume Medicare covers everything. It doesn't. Medicare has gaps, deductibles, and copays. It doesn't cover dental, vision, or hearing aids. It has limited long-term care coverage. Supplemental insurance helps, but adds costs. The book recommends 3 strategies for healthcare costs. First, factor them into your 4% withdrawal calculations. Don't treat healthcare as an unexpected expense. It's a guaranteed major cost. Budget for it explicitly. Second, consider health savings accounts, HSAs, while you're still working. These triple tax-advantaged accounts are retirement healthcare gold mines. Contributions are tax-deductible, growth is tax-free, and withdrawals for healthcare are tax-free. Max out HSA contributions if possible. Third, plan for long-term care. This is the expense that destroys more retirements than any other. A single person spending 3 years in a nursing home can easily burn through $300,000. Options include long-term care insurance, expensive but potentially worth it. Hybrid life insurance policies with long-term care riders, or self-insuring by setting aside dedicated funds. Now, longevity. How long will you live? This might seem like a morbid question, but it's critical for planning. The 4% rule assumes 30 years. But if you retire at 60, you might live to 95. That's 35 years. Suddenly, the 4% rule might not be conservative enough. Bengen suggests using family history, health status, and actuarial tables to estimate your longevity. If you come from a family of 90-year-olds and you're in excellent health, plan for a longer retirement. If your family history suggests shorter lifespans, you might be able to spend more aggressively. But here's the catch. You don't know for sure. You might get hit by a bus at 70, or you might live to 105. This uncertainty is why the 4% rule builds in a safety margin. The book also discusses annuities as longevity insurance. While Bengen isn't a huge fan of most annuities due to their costs and complexity, he acknowledges that immediate annuities or deferred income annuities can provide valuable longevity protection. They guarantee income for life, eliminating the risk of outliving your money. A strategy worth considering. Use a portion of your portfolio to purchase a deferred annuity that starts paying at age 80 or 85. This creates a safety net for extreme longevity. You can spend your other assets more aggressively, knowing you have guaranteed income if you live longer than expected. Healthcare and longevity are wild cards that can't be perfectly predicted, but they can be planned for. Build in cushions, set aside dedicated funds, and consider insurance products for catastrophic scenarios. Chapter 6, Tax Efficiency, Keeping More of Your Money. Here's a retirement reality most people ignore until it's too late. Taxes in retirement can be just as high as taxes during your working years if you're not strategic. The 4% rule tells you how much you can withdraw, but taxes determine how much you actually get to spend. Bengen dedicates significant attention to tax-efficient withdrawal strategies because they can dramatically increase your effective spending power without taking additional risk. First, understand your retirement account types. Traditional IRAs and 401ks are tax-deferred. You pay taxes on withdrawals. Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks are tax-free. No taxes on qualified withdrawals. Taxable brokerage accounts have capital gains treatment, potentially lower tax rates on long-term holdings. Each account type has different tax implications, and the order you withdraw from them matters enormously. Conventional wisdom says withdraw from taxable accounts first, then tax-deferred, then Roth last. The logic is to let tax-free growth continue as long as possible. But Bengen suggests a more nuanced approach. Sometimes it makes sense to mix withdrawals from different account types to manage your tax bracket. For example, if filling up the 12% tax bracket, you might withdraw from traditional IRAs to use up that low bracket, even if you have taxable account funds available. The book emphasizes Roth conversions as a powerful retirement strategy. In early retirement, before Social Security and required minimum distributions kick in, your income might be low. This creates an opportunity to convert traditional IRA funds to Roth at low tax rates. You pay taxes now at a lower rate to avoid higher taxes later. This is particularly valuable if you expect to be in a higher tax bracket later in retirement due to RMDs, Social Security, or investment growth. Pay the tax bill when it's smaller, not when it's larger. Speaking of RMDs, required minimum distributions, these force you to withdraw from traditional retirement accounts starting at age 73, regardless of whether you need the money. If you have large balances, RMDs can push you into high tax brackets and trigger taxation of Social Security benefits and Medicare premium surcharges. Bengen's strategy: start withdrawing from traditional accounts earlier than required, even if you don't need the money. Take systematic withdrawals in your 60s to gradually reduce balances. This prevents a massive RMD bomb in your 70s and spreads the tax burden more evenly. Another critical tax consideration, Social Security timing. You can claim benefits as early as 62 or as late as 70. Claiming early means smaller checks but more checks. Claiming later means bigger checks but fewer checks. From a tax perspective, delaying Social Security often makes sense. Use your retirement accounts to fund early retirement years, potentially doing Roth conversions while your income is low. Then, when you claim Social Security at 70, you'll receive the maximum benefit, and your retirement account balances will be lower, meaning smaller RMDs. The book provides detailed scenarios showing how strategic Social Security timing, combined with tax-efficient withdrawals, can save hundreds of thousands of dollars over a 30-year retirement. One final tax strategy: qualified charitable distributions, QCDs. If you're charitably inclined and over age 70, you can donate up to $100,000 per year directly from your IRA to charity. This satisfies your RMD requirement, but isn't counted as taxable income. It's a win-win. You support causes you care about while reducing your tax bill. Tax planning isn't exciting, but it's essential. Two retirees with identical portfolios can have vastly different spending power based solely on how tax-efficient their withdrawal strategies are. Chapter 7. The Legacy Question: Balancing Spending and Leaving Money Behind. The final major theme Bengen addresses is one of the most personal decisions in retirement planning. Do you want to leave money to heirs? Or do you want to spend everything and die with zero? This isn't a financial question. It's a values question. There's no right answer. But your answer dramatically affects your retirement spending strategy. If your goal is to die with zero, to fully use every dollar you've saved for your own enjoyment, you can spend more aggressively than the 4% rule suggests. Bengen shows that with the right annuitization and spending strategies, you could potentially spend 5-6% annually if you're comfortable exhausting your funds. The benefit is obvious. You get to live a richer lifestyle, take more trips, be more generous with yourself and others, and fully enjoy the fruits of your labor. The downside is you leave nothing behind, and if you miscalculate your longevity, you could run short. If leaving a legacy is important to you, the 4% rule actually helps achieve that goal. In most historical scenarios, following the 4% rule results in growing your portfolio even while taking withdrawals. You get to maintain your lifestyle and leave significant assets to heirs. The book presents a third option, a hybrid approach. Spend aggressively in your early retirement years when you're healthy and energetic. As you age and spending naturally decreases, shift to a more conservative approach that preserves assets for heirs. Research shows that retirement spending isn't linear. Most retirees spend more in their 60s, the go-go years, less in their 70s, the slow-go years, and even less in their 80s and beyond, the no-go years. Healthcare spending increases, but discretionary spending on travel, hobbies, and entertainment typically decreases. Bengen suggests taking advantage of this pattern. Perhaps spend 5% in your 60s while you can fully enjoy it, then drop to 4% in your 70s and 3 to 3.5% in your 80s. This allows you to front-load enjoyment while still preserving assets for later care needs and potential legacy. Another consideration: life insurance. If leaving a legacy is important, but you also want to spend your assets, life insurance can be a solution. Use a portion of your portfolio to maintain a permanent life insurance policy. This guarantees a payout to heirs while freeing you to spend your other assets more freely. The book also discusses charitable legacy strategies. If you're charitably inclined, options like charitable remainder trusts, donor-advised funds, or leaving retirement accounts to charity, which avoids income taxes for beneficiaries, can be highly tax-efficient ways to create legacy impact. Ultimately, Bengen emphasizes this. It's your money and your life. Don't sacrifice your retirement enjoyment just to leave a bigger inheritance, unless that truly matters to you. Your children would likely prefer you live fully and leave less than live miserably and leave more. Have honest conversations with your family about expectations. Clarify your values and priorities. Then, build a spending plan that aligns with what matters most to you. Your richer retirement starts now. Let's bring this together. A richer retirement solves the biggest challenge facing retirees: how to spend confidently without running out of money. The 4% rule provides a scientifically backed framework that has survived every market condition of the past century. You've learned that retirement is longer and more expensive than ever, but with proper planning, your money can last. The 4% rule: withdrawing 4% of your portfolio in year one, adjusting for inflation thereafter, provides a baseline for safe spending across any 30-year retirement. You've discovered strategies to supercharge the rule: optimizing asset allocation toward growth, adjusting withdrawals based on market conditions, considering your specific time horizon, and incorporating guaranteed income sources. These approaches can significantly increase your lifetime spending while maintaining security. You've understood sequence of returns risk, the hidden danger of market crashes early in retirement, and learned strategies to protect against it through cash cushions, bucket approaches, and spending flexibility. You've faced the wild cards of healthcare costs and longevity, learning to build specific strategies for both. You've explored tax-efficient withdrawal strategies that can save hundreds of thousands over retirement. And you've considered the legacy question, balancing personal spending with desires to leave money behind. But here's what matters: knowledge without action is worthless. You need to actually implement these principles. Here's your action plan. First, if you're still working, run the numbers on your retirement readiness. Calculate how much you need saved to support your desired lifestyle using the 4% rule. If you want to spend $60,000 per year in retirement from your portfolio, you need $1.5 million saved, $60,000, 0.04. Second, optimize your asset allocation. If you're overly conservative, you're actually increasing your risk of running out. Build a portfolio with sufficient stock exposure to provide growth throughout retirement. Typically 50-75% stocks, 25-50% bonds. Third, create a withdrawal strategy. Don't just wing it. Decide which accounts you'll draw from in what order. Plan for tax efficiency. Build cash cushions to handle sequence of returns risk. Document your strategy so you're not making it up as you go. Fourth, stress test your plan. Use online retirement calculators or work with a financial planner to model different scenarios. What if the market crashes next year? What if you live to 100? What if healthcare costs double? Make sure your plan has enough buffer to handle surprises. Fifth, review and adjust annually. Your plan isn't set in stone. Each year, review your spending, your portfolio performance, your health, your goals. Make adjustments as needed. Flexibility is key to long-term success. Remember Bengen's ultimate message: retirement should be enjoyed, not endured. You spent decades working and saving. The point of that sacrifice was to create freedom and security in your later years. Don't squander that by either spending recklessly or hoarding needlessly. The 4% rule gives you permission to spend. It's backed by data, research, and historical evidence. Trust it. Use it. Live the richer retirement you've earned. Your future self, the one enjoying financial security, traveling comfortably, supporting loved ones generously, and sleeping peacefully without money worries. That person is counting on you to implement these strategies now. Stop guessing. Stop worrying. Start planning. Your richer retirement begins today.